Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Full Potential Show. I'm James Rick, and this is your #1 non-boring source for personal development. Today on the line, we have Christine Arylo. She is the queen of self-love, author, speaker, and coach. She's the speaker of Choosing Me Before We. Her website is chooseselflove.com. Today, we're going to talk about how you can choose, yes, you guessed it, self-love and choosing me before we. What does that mean exactly? So in today's show, we're going to talk about that. Christine, thank you so much for being on today's Full Potential Show.
Happy to be here. When someone wants to talk about love, like, I'm ready to go.
All right, well, we are. We're ready to shine and let that love flow, baby. So let's talk about what it means, first of all, to choose me before we.
You know, it's an interesting phrase. Sometimes when people say it out loud, they get like the hairs on their neck kind of crawl up and they get a little uncomfortable because they're like, oh, choosing me before we, that's selfish. I don't want to be, called the big selfish person. And that's not what it means at all. It's not choosing me instead of we, it's choosing me before me. And so, or before we. And what that really means is when you're in a relationship that you really demand unconditional love and respect. And that you don't settle for less than your heart and soul desire.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, when you're choosing we before me, you're not having that strength or that love that you can really flow in and give into others. So I get that. So where did this come from? Did you have an experience of choosing we before me, Christine?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So here's the thing. Just because you're smart and intelligent does not make you smart in love. And so I was a super successful marketing executive. I was getting my MBA at probably one of the best business schools in the country. And I was also in the process of marrying my high school sweetheart because that was the next life stage. And on the way to our engagement party, he stopped the car. And he looked at me and he said, Chris, I don't love you. I don't want to marry you. And oh, by the way, I've been cheating on you for the last 6 months. And because I was in that place of so needing the we and not really loving me, and I'm believing that he was my only he that was out here, I had pronoun problems up the wazoo. I'm like, that's great, but we have a party to go to and we'll fix it later. And I was so afraid of losing the we and losing the he that I was willing to give up on the me.
And so I think free.
Well, for sure. Yeah, I mean, for sure. And luckily that ended up not working out and I became very free. And in the process, I asked myself, how did a really smart, intelligent woman end up here? And there was 2 answers. One is that you've been settling. And 2 is that you don't love yourself. And you know what? You don't even know what that is.
Interesting. So this reflection process really cut to the core and said, hey, you got to start loving yourself and you got to start using that intelligence to be also socially intelligent and emotionally intelligent within yourself. So,
yes. So
how did you come up with the solution that it was that you had to love yourself? Did it just come to you intuitively?
Well, because I was actually laying in bed about 2 weeks after that relationship ended. A good girlfriend let me move in with her. And so I was
some Haagen-Dazs. Go on.
I was not. I was actually too mortified to even get to the Haagen-Dazs. I'm laying in bed looking up at the ceiling and my friend Catherine is reading a brides magazine because she's newly engaged. So just like a double whammy. I'm in the bed. I'm like, oh my God, my life is over. And I had that, that hole in your chest where you feel like, oh my God, my heart's just been ripped out. And then this little voice said to me, it's like I always thought that was him. Like whenever we would break up, I figured, oh, my heart hurts because he's missing. But this little voice that I learned was my intuition said, honey, that's not him missing, that's you missing. And I was like, oh.
like, hello, voice. Now I know where you're coming from.
And it was so funny, James, because she had been stifled for so many years that she just kept talking. And she's like, and here's the thing, like, you're really smart and you're really financially successful and all this business, but honey, you don't love yourself and you don't even know what that is. And I was like, dang,
she's smart, right. This girl. I gotta listen to her. You know what's
kidding.
funny? What's funny about what you're saying, Christine, is I just recently had an interview and I talk about this multiple selves, these multiple dimensions that we have that sometimes it's easy to look in the mirror and say, I am one. It's just me. This flesh and bones identity is me. But what I hear you saying is what's going on inside is this dialogue between 2 selves. One being Christine, this flesh and bones, Christine going through this relationship turmoil. And another, this voice, this other self, this wise, intuitive self communicating between the selves, a relationship of two selves that helped empower Christine to start moving in ways that led to more and more positive experiences. Do you notice this relationship now more and recognize that there are actually these two selves going on at the same time?
Yeah, well, and this is a big, huge piece of my work, because what I learned was that there's actually the love part of yourself, which I call your inner wisdom. And so when your inner wisdom is broadcasting in your head or your mind or your heart, like my inner wisdom was on that day, it's like a radio station going on in your head. I call it 108 LOVE. And like, she's smart, she's wise, and she really knows that you have love 24/7. You have a downline to spirit 24/7. You got love flowing through you. So you feel that safety, you feel connected. That's your inner wisdom, your intuition. That's the love channel. Then there's this other channel that is FEAR, fear 88.9. And the person who broadcasts through that channel, if you're a woman, it's your inner mean girl. And if you're a man, it's your inner bully, which is really fear's costume. And it's that voice inside of you that some people call the inner critic, but like, it's way more personal than that, because it's literally inside of you, and it's mean and it's catty and it's nasty. And for me, like in my former relationship, it said to me, well, Christine, you can't leave this relationship because no one else will ever love you. That's the inner mean girl, and she tells big lies. My partner, Amy Ayler, she calls them big fat lies. And so this voice of fear that tells you these lies because it wants to keep you safe. And you have this illusion that if you listen to those lies and you trust in fear, that you'll find safety, when really it's all about us learning how to go back and trust in love.
So I hear about all these different parties sort of in play at one time, and I want to just identify these different aspects of the self. You're saying you've got this, and it's funny, you've got these radio stations going on, these channels. You've got the love station, you've got the fear station, and then you've got you kind of in between, listening or tuning into one station or another. I'm with you so far, right? Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is you have to learn to tune into the love station. And what about the fear station? I mean, what do you do with that mean girl or that bully? How do you deal with that?
Well, the first stage in dealing with your inner bully or inner mean girl is understanding that she exists and that she's not you and she is you at the same time. And so what that means is that you really get that that voice is a voice that was put there to protect you at some point in your life. So if you go back to when you were first born, okay, go all the way back to when you were first born. And you might not be able to cognitively remember it, but just go there.
Oh, I remember. It was good, the good old days.
Whoa, you're
coming out of the womb.
Well, the thing is that you were born in love. You were born in love with yourself. You were born in love with the world. You were born trusting love. You had pure love in your heart, in your spirit. Like you were just one big vat of pure love. Mm-hmm. And depending on your life, there was a point in your life when you received what I call the cardinal love crack. And a love crack is when you have an interaction with another person. Usually it's with a parent or another child or some adult, and their pain or their fear gets unleashed on you. And so you're going to that person in love, and their pain or their fear comes at you, and it creates what's called a love crack on your pure, beautiful, pink, vibrant heart. And that love crack opens, and it creates a fissure that allows what I call the love stealers to come in. And the love stealers are fear's messengers, like the inner mean girl, that tell you all these lies. Like, for example, my cardinal crack was the fear of rejection. So when I was just very newly born, I was given to my mother, who of course loved me, but she had been grieving the loss of her father for a year while I was in her belly. And I came out, and here's this baby who wants to give love so badly. They give me to my mother, and there's a whole part of her that's closed down. And so she cannot receive my love. So instantly my little heart opens, and this instant fear of rejection gets created. So my whole life, I've had this inner mean girl whose name is Beat It Brenda. And Beat It Brenda is beautiful and voluptuous. She has red or blonde hair, and she wears a white pantsuit with a pink, really vibrant magenta-like collar. And when she was little, she had a little white pinafore dress when I was younger. And she says to me, Christine, these people don't really want to play with you. You don't come into this group because you're going to get rejected. So she keeps me from putting myself out there because I'm afraid to be rejected.
Interesting. So it's interesting. Now this is not a real person. This is a personification of that inner mean girl.
Right, and that's the power of when you start working with your inner mean girl or your inner bully, you have to personify them so that you can actually
make
start
it more
to
real and have that relationship.
Yeah, you have a relationship with it, and then you're like, okay, well, you're really mean and you're nasty, and you keep me from love, but I can see how you're trying to protect me, and then you give them new jobs.
I like this. I mean, all this inner work too is very real. I know it can sound a little like, you know, a fairy tale going on inside, but what you're actually doing is working with what's called, you know, neuro-linguistic programming, where you create these visuals that you can actually relate very well with. You've personified this inner mean girl, so you can now work with it, mold it, reshape that even though it's a visual metaphor, it's also something that has energy for you. And as you reshape and remold and give that energy new jobs, and it makes sense to you, that's why stories are so powerful. That's why, you know, the things that got passed on for thousands of years were stories. We understood those metaphorically, and at the same time, you have a story going on inside your head that you're making more real and vivid instead of being just these fuzzy emotions. I like that. And you're saying you work with this person. Now, what kind of job did you give this what is it, Beat It Betty?
Her name is Beat It Brenda, and okay. I have 4 inner mean girls. I just transformed Beat It Brenda this summer, and I took her through a 40-day fear cleanse. So I do these 40-day self-love practices, and I just finished this one with a group of about 400 people, and we all chose our biggest fear that was driving us and our mean girl. So Beat It Brenda, what she does now is she goes out and she finds really great groups of people who really want to play, and then she holds my hand and she says, Christine, come on in here. These are really good people. So she susses out the really good communities, and then she makes the connection for me, so I don't have to be afraid of making that connection. So it kind of gives me that hand.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in this process, what do you suggest that somebody do in order to create this self-love for themselves? What process do you go through before we kind of wrap things up? I mean, to get clear on what steps can somebody take? They like this idea. I mean, this sounds very interesting. They like the idea of choosing this self-love, choosing this inner strength first, and working with sort of the inner demons, the inner bullies, the inner mean figures that are there ultimately to protect us. I mean, that's what I think is important here too, to recognize that everything that is going on inside, whether we have multiple selves or one mean self, it has an underlying motive of protection over love.
Yes.
And
that's why you have to love it back. You have to love yourself back. And so, I mean, to your point, the first thing to do is just really get that you need to make a promise to yourself that I'm going to freaking fall in love with myself. And it's not selfish. It's not crazy. It's not weird. It's like, if you don't, I mean, yes, just take that vow of loving yourself. And then there's actually several different promises that I teach people on what to take and how to go through that path of self-love. But what we're talking about with the mean girl and the bully, it's the third promise of self-love, which is I will always be kind, compassionate, and gentle with myself. And so those are 2 vows that you can actually take. I mean, we often think about just wedding vows. When we take wedding vows, like, hello, you got to marry myself first. You got to promise yourself first, or you throw yourself under the bus all the time.
Right.
So I think those 2 vows, and also the vow of not settling. That was another vow I took early on, was I will not settle for less than my heart and soul desire ever. And, you know, I'm committed to teaching this to people. This is my life's work. People call me the queen of self-love because I think self-love isn't something that we really understand. It's so vast. Like, once you get to the point of, okay, loving myself, good idea, I got it. Like, how the hell do you even do it? Where do you start?
Where do they start, Christine?
Yeah, well, they start with they start with the promise of loving yourself. And then, so I love what you do here, James, because the first real step to loving yourself is knowing yourself. Really, truly knowing what your heart and soul want and desire, and creating that connection. So this understanding that you are not fear, that you are actually love, and listening to that place inside of you of what your heart and soul desire. So you start to figure that out. It's really helpful in relationships. This is what Choosing Me Before We, my book, is all about, is instead of asking yourself, what's the partnership, the we, or who's the he or the she, the first question is what's the life I want to live? Because you paid a big price to come to this planet, and you're here, and you got a ticket, baby. You want to ride this ride, and you want to have a good time.
Amen.
And then once you get that down, you're like, hey, I know what I want from my life. then the question is, okay, what kind of partnership? What's the we? Is it a marriage? Is it a hookup? Is it a lover? Is it a, man companion? And then it's like, who's the he or the she? And so getting your pronouns in order, going back to where we started at of choosing me before we, I think that has to be your first stand in the ground. To really put yourself first.
And what I'm hearing you say, first of all, is that clarity of what do you want? What do you care about? What do you value? Getting clear on you, your knowledge of yourself. Because how can you really get in a relationship with somebody else unless you have that deep relationship with yourself, with your inner selves, the fear and the love, and you have all of that figured out? Because unless you have that figured out, you're just bringing somebody into the chaos. And if they don't have it figured out, they're bringing you into that's what relationship chaos is all about.
And it's unfortunately what most of us are we go through, because we're totally emotionally retarded. I mean, we are relationship retarded. It means that we're not prepared. We're retarded in our ability to actually have adult relationships. And so there's this piece of really getting to the place where you get that. I think a lot of us, because we're looking for love, and we so want it. I mean, James, the thing is that every single person, you and me and every person listening right now to us or watching us right now, you want to be loved. Doesn't matter how much
Deeply,
money you have.
Everybody.
Deeply. Doesn't matter how much money, how pretty, nothing is that you want to be loved. And the problem is that we go out and we look for that love in other people. And then if we don't love ourselves, if we haven't really gone to that first self of knowing ourselves and really healing some of what I call our big emotional gapers, those love cracks, we're like big, huge pieces of Swiss cheese. We got love cracks all over us. And then what happens is we try to go stuff people into those love cracks. And then when they leave, we're like big holes, and we think, oh my God, they've left. I'm devastated. And yeah, relationship ending is sad. But one of the reasons we stay is because we're so afraid of dealing with our own love cracks. And so there's that commitment of really diving into your own love cracks and healing it.
I love your metaphors, and it's making me hungry. So I'm hearing this. I'm hearing you've got to be whole to begin with. You've got to figure out what you need to be whole. You've got to work that out within yourself. Nobody's going to make you whole but yourself. And from that place of connecting with yourself and having that love for yourself, now you're going to have a really wonderful and fulfilling relationship, because you're not needing to be filled. You're already fulfilled, and now the relationship is complementary to the enjoyment of life.
Yes, you are whole, WHOLE, instead of holy, HOLEY. One thing that you can do, I love to give people self-love dares, because I think loving yourself is a totally daring act. And one self-love dare, it's super easy. I call it the I love me list, is you actually make a list of 108 things that you love about yourself. And it's 108 because 108 is the most significant number in the universe, or one of them. The mala beads that Buddhists wear, they have 108 of them. There's 108 names for the Virgin Mary. There's a whole yogic system is based on the number 108. And people are like, oh my God, 108 things? I'm like, of course 108 things. So it could be whatever's unique about you. What's your essence? The things you love about you. Wouldn't you want to be with a partner who would have 108 things to say of why I love you? So the same thing, you make the list. And then you take the second double dog dare, which is do a self-love serenade. And this is where you put yourself into a place probably where no one can hear you, because it's,
this is going to get a little weird.
It's going to get a little weird. So, you can do it in the car, in your bedroom, or I do this sometimes in my driveway. And then you just start singing, I'm not going to do it because I'll sing off key, but it'll be, I love me. And you pick a beat. I love me because I think I'm grand. I love me because I have holes in my, I like to play in the sand. You can make a rhyme out of it, whatever. But just really get into that energy. And what starts to happen, and this is the place where how you can start to shift from fear to love, is you change your vibration. You change your energy. So in those moments when your inner mean girl's got you by your neck, then you can go and you can do the self-love serenade, and all of a sudden you've turned off those lies and you've turned on the love.
And what I like about that process is it's playful. Silliness is often, I get told I'm silly all the time. It's because I'm so darn playful. And that playfulness is an energy that allows you to express more of yourself spontaneously and everything else. So if you're hearing that, I love me, I love that, and that sounds silly, it's also very playful, and you're coming to that place of, I can take myself lightly and I can take this process lightly, yet it sends a very important message of, I love myself, and I don't have to take this so seriously. I like it.
Yes, and it liberates your heart and your soul. So one of the reasons why we're so unhappy as adults, because we're so freaking like tied up in knots and contracted. And if you think about yourself as a young child, like you were expanded and you would rush into play and yay, let's go. And like your heart is open. And then the thing about love and fear is that fear contracts and love expands. So anything that you can do to expand yourself, expands your heart, expands your love, and play is a total way to do this. And yeah, I mean, that's why I created the inner mean girl and the inner bully, because it takes a pretty deep, like, you know, we have a lot of self-hatred and self-loathing that goes on. And that's like deep and, oh my God, I'm going to be in a therapy room and I'm going to have to cry. And yeah, you know, everyone should go to therapy to heal. I had 3 therapists working on me for the first 2 years after my holes were just spewing, you know, out all kinds of stuff. And then you get to a place in your development and your spiritual growth where you really get that you have the power to connect to yourself, to connect to spirit, to connect to other people, to really continue to bring in this love, and then you can have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. One last thought I want to put out there, and then I want to get any final thoughts before we wrap up today. One of the things that I've noticed a lot about just using my body and you know, the voice and everything else is sometimes you have to break out of that shell in order to really start expressing and expanding like you're talking about, which might involve doing some weird things in front of the mirror or when you're by yourself. But it's that breaking out of that shell, really flexing your physical body, your voice in ways that you haven't done before, in ways that are fun, creative, playful, and probably a little weird, that then allow you to come back into your normal range when you're around normal people. And so I'll be one of the first ones to admit I've done weird things with myself when I'm by myself. It probably doesn't sound the best, but I do, because then when you come back into your normal range, you're expanded. You've kind of flexed that creativity in ways that I think, you know, a lot of actors and actresses do this as they take on different roles, some extreme on one side, some extreme on the other. Then when they come back in their normal range, either they have real flexibility in their different characters or they become very mentally unhealthy and kill themselves. But the point is that you have that flexibility to expand your range and then come back and yes, you'll still be normal, but you also have a lot of ability to be very animated and do things that aren't normally associated with that identity of constriction and being contracted.
Yes, the first gate of self-love, which is I am myself without apology, and I honor the desires and dreams of my heart and soul, is all about liberation. So what you're talking about is actually I call them the robes of repression that get put on us from society and our family. And we don't want to get kicked out of the tribe growing up. So we spend all this energy trying to fit in and be small and play along because that, you know, it's the tribal thinking. And they're just these big, huge robes that like all of a sudden, like, you know, you're under all these robes. And then it's like, if you've ever been in a place where you want to express yourself and you're scared, like to get up and sing or to get up and dance or anything like that, you know, that's why most people have to get, you know, inebriated in order to dance because they're underneath all these robes of repression. But when you love yourself and you do this crazy stuff in you know, the things I've done looking at the mirror in my bathroom and dancing around in my house, but then when you get into the public space, you're free of those robes of repression. And then over time, you don't need to drink 5 cocktails to get up and dance. You're shaking your butt and moving your thing and moving, just having a good time without the need of any kind of substance to get you there because you have love on your side.
And you are so right on about this. I mean, we could go on just about that point. It is so true to expand that range, but we can't go on about it. I love what you're saying, though, Christine. Where can people learn more about you and the good work you're doing here?
Go to www.chooseselflove.com, and there's a free self-love kit that goes over all the gates of self-love. There's 3 interviews, one on radical self-care, one on choosing me before we, one on stopping being hard on yourself. There's even a self-love song that was written by a woman in Canada called I Love Myself, and it's all free. So just go down there.
She took it to the next level, didn't she?
She went for it. It's awesome. Her name's Catherine Rose. It's super fab.
Cool. ChooseSelflove.com. Christine, thank you so much for being on today's Full Potential Show. Folks, this is one of the most important things that you can do. If you are not loving yourself and you're not coming from this place of energy flow that is freely allowing you to express who you truly are, this is the foundation stuff. So chooseselflove.com. Christine, thank you again so much for being on today's Full Potential
Much
Show.
love.
Much love.
Everyone.
Take care. Well, that concludes this week's episode of the Full Potential Show, your number one non-boring source for personal development. I'm James Rick, and if you want to get more positive programming for your brain absolutely free on a weekly basis, just visit fullpotential.com.
If you like the Full Potential Show, you're going to love the Full Potential Club. What would you like most as a Full Potential Club member? Be 2 to 3 times more productive? Do what you're passionate about? Have more energy? Reduce your work hours? Travel the world? Enjoy an amazing lifestyle on a frugal budget? What if you could do them all? James Rick has been there and done it in ways that few people have. For anyone serious about taking their life or business to the next level, you know you've got to do more than just watch. You've got to do. Join James Rick and other like-minded people for an incredible $10 a month at fullpotential.com/club. Be educated. Be empowered. Be the best version of you. fullpotential.com/club. Try it free for 30 days.